Nearly $1 trillion. Gone. Not gradually, not over years, weeks. And here's what's wild. The company that pulled the trigger wasn't even trying to crash the market. Anthropic, the AI lab, dropped a product update on February 3rd, a legal plugin, something that reviews contracts, tracks compliance, handles NDAs. Sounds boring, right? Within 24 hours, Thomson Reuters dropped 19%. LegalZoom crashed 18%. The entire legal software sector started bleeding out. That was the match. But the powder keg? That's been building for months. So today we're not doing surface-level coverage. We're not talking about AI is disrupting tech like every other finance channel. What we're doing is going deeper. Goldman Sachs has a specific framework for which companies survive this and which ones are already dead. They just don't know it yet. We're going to walk through that framework, apply it to real companies, real tickers, and by the end of this, you're going to have a clear way to audit every single software stock in your portfolio. Let's get into it. Okay, so first, let's actually understand the size of this thing, because I think most people are underestimating it. The iShares Expanded Tech Software ETF, that's the benchmark for the entire software sector, is down 22% this year. But that's the average. The individual names are getting hit way harder. Salesforce, down 27%. Intuit, the company behind TurboTax and QuickBooks, down 34%. Workday, the HR software giant, down 30%. These aren't small-cap speculative plays. These are blue-chip enterprise software companies, the kind of stocks that sat in every institutional portfolio for the last decade as safe, high-quality growth. And here's the valuation context that really puts this in perspective. A year ago, software was the most expensive sector in the entire market. Not just expensive, absurdly expensive. 51 times price over earnings. The market was essentially saying, these businesses are so dominant, so sticky, so defensible, we'll pay $51 for every $1 of earnings. That was the consensus. That consensus is now gone. Software has re-rated to 27 times earnings. Meanwhile, and this is the part that should make you stop for a second, media stocks are trading at 35 times. Car companies are at 32 times. The market now thinks Ford and Comcast are better businesses than Salesforce. Let that sink in. This isn't a correction. This is a fundamental repricing. The market is saying the moat is gone. The question is whether the market is right or whether it's panicking. And to answer that, you need to understand what actually triggered this crisis. Not just the Anthropic announcement, but the underlying economics that made that announcement so devastating. Traditional software companies, your Salesforces, your Workdays, your Intuits, they built businesses on a very specific model. You have a problem, they have software that solves it, you pay them every month per user. Simple. Recurring revenue. Predictable. Beautiful business model. The problem is, that model has two massive assumptions baked into it. First assumption. The only way to automate your workflows is through their specific software. Second assumption. You need roughly the same number of humans using that software every year. I just blew up both assumptions simultaneously. Think about what an AI agent actually is. It's software that can receive a plain language instruction and execute a complex workflow on its own. No rigid interface, no monthly seat license. You tell it, review this contract for liability clauses, it does it. You tell it, reconcile these financial statements, it does it, for almost nothing. That's not incremental improvement over existing software. That's a different paradigm entirely. UBS and Goldman Sachs are both independently calling AI an unresolvable existential threat to traditional software. That word choice matters, not challenge, not headwind, existential, unresolvable. They're saying there is no version of this where a company like DocuSign pivots its way out of the problem. The core thing they sell, document signing, can now be handled natively by an AI agent for pennies. But the deepest structural issue is what Goldman calls seat compression. This is the thing I want you to really understand because it's the hidden kill shot that most people are missing. Salesforce charges per user. Workday charges per user. A lot of enterprise software charges per user. Now imagine AI makes your employees 3 times more productive. That sounds great for your business, but it means you need 1/3 as many Salesforce seats. The software company just lost 2/3 of their revenue from your account, not because you churned, but because their own AI-enhanced product made you need them less. They built a product that cannibalizes their own revenue model. There is no good solution to that problem from inside the existing business model. So now the real question becomes, which companies have actual structural protection from this, and which ones are just hoping nobody notices yet? Goldman Sachs put out a framework distinguishing what they call winners and losers in this environment. I want to walk through the 5 characteristics of winners first, because understanding what makes a company defensible helps you see the logic. Then we'll apply it. Trait number 1, physical execution. This is the most obvious one, but worth stating clearly. If your business requires something to happen in the physical world, actual servers, actual data centers, actual hardware, AI cannot replace that. AI runs on infrastructure. The infrastructure companies are not being disrupted, they're being supercharged. Every AI model that gets deployed needs compute, needs storage, needs network connectivity. That demand is going up, not down. Trait number 2, regulatory protection. This is underappreciated. Some software is so deeply embedded in regulatory compliance that switching it out isn't just inconvenient. It's a legal and operational nightmare. Banking core systems, healthcare record platforms, government technology contracts. The switching costs aren't just financial, they involve regulatory recertification, compliance audits, vendor approval processes. That creates a moat that AI disruption simply can't easily bridge in the near term. Trait number 3, deep operational integration. There's a difference between software you use and software that is your business. When a company's entire operation, its data architecture, its workflows, its institutional knowledge, runs through a specific platform, the cost of ripping that out isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in business risk. These deeply embedded platforms have a different kind of stickiness than typical SaaS. Trait number 4, human accountability requirements. Cybersecurity is the clearest example here. Yes, AI creates better attack tools, but defending against sophisticated threats still requires human judgment, legal accountability, and someone who can actually be held responsible when something goes wrong. You can't outsource the liability of a breach to an algorithm. That human-in-the-loop requirement creates sustained demand for companies in this space. Trait number 5, value-based pricing rather than seat-based pricing. This is the business model dimension. Companies that charge based on outcomes, on the value they deliver, rather than the number of humans using their product are structurally protected from seat compression. If anything, AI making their product more powerful means clients get more value, which means higher revenue, not lower. Now here's what's interesting. Not every winner needs all 5 of these. Some have 2 or 3, but the losers, they typically have 0. Let me be direct about something. Some of these companies are not going to recover. I'm not being dramatic. I'm applying the same logic Goldman is applying. The loser characteristics are almost mirror images of the winner traits, but there's one that matters more than the rest: workflow automation. If the primary thing your software does can be described in a sentence of plain English, this software signs documents, this software sends marketing emails, this software tracks time and attendance, then an AI agent can do it, today, for almost nothing. DocuSign. The company literally built its entire business on the idea that sending a document for signature is complicated enough that you need dedicated software. An AI agent receives a document, identifies the signature fields, routes it to the right parties, follows up, and stores the signed version. That's the whole product. It's not that DocuSign isn't building AI features, it's that the core workflow is so simple that the AI version doesn't need to be a product at all. It's just a capability. Atlassian is in a similar position. Project tracking, ticket management, documentation, these are workflow coordination tasks. The more sophisticated AI agents become at understanding context and managing tasks, the less you need a dedicated project management platform. HubSpot faces the same math. Email sequencing, lead scoring, campaign management. These are describable workflows. Describable workflows get automated. And then there's Intuit. This one is personal for most viewers because you've used TurboTax. Intuit charges you $100, $200, sometimes $300 to fill out forms the government already has the data for. AI can now do your taxes conversationally. Not perfectly yet, but the trajectory is obvious. The market has already priced in 34% of Intuit's value disappearing this year alone. The other loser characteristic worth flagging is what I'd call superficial AI integration. A lot of these companies responded to the AI wave by bolting a chatbot onto their existing platform. They called it an AI assistant and put it in the press release. But under the hood, nothing changed. The underlying architecture is the same, the pricing model is the same, the moat is the same, which is to say, there isn't one. Investors are now, correctly, seeing through that. All right, let's talk about where Goldman and other institutional players are actually positioning. Microsoft and Google, Alphabet, are the most obvious winners, and I want to explain why beyond just their big tech. Both companies own the infrastructure that AI runs on. Azure and Google Cloud are not going to be replaced by AI. They're going to be consumed by AI at an accelerating rate. Every startup building an AI product, every enterprise deploying AI agents, every research lab training models, they're all paying Microsoft or Google for compute. The AI wave is literally their revenue stream growing. Add to that the fact that both companies have deeply integrated enterprise software suites, Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, that are becoming more valuable as AI gets embedded into them, not less. Oracle is a fascinating one that doesn't get enough credit in this conversation. Oracle's database infrastructure is what a huge portion of enterprise software runs on. They have a $500 billion revenue backlog. They have partnerships with NVIDIA and OpenAI. They're not a sexy AI story, but they're the plumbing. And in a gold rush, you want to own the company selling shovels, or in this case, the pipes. CrowdStrike and Palo Alto Networks are interesting because their thesis is actually the inverse of most winners. AI makes the threat landscape dramatically more complex. Deepfake attacks, AI-generated phishing, autonomous malware, these are real and growing. The companies that defend against them are going to see more demand, not less. And critically, as we talked about, there's a human accountability requirement in cybersecurity that AI can assist but not fully replace. Then there's the specialized tier: Palantir, Snowflake, Cloudflare. Palantir has government contracts so deep that it has essentially regulatory moat status. Their software is embedded in intelligence and defense operations where the switching cost is measured in national security risk. Snowflake sits at the intersection of where all data lives, which is increasingly where AI models get trained and deployed. Cloudflare owns the connectivity layer of the internet. These are infrastructure plays for the AI era. One sector that isn't pure software but deserves a moment here: transportation and logistics. The data projects that transportation stocks are expected to grow profits by 192% this year. Think about what AI actually does for a logistics company. Real-time route optimization, reduction of empty miles, automated scheduling, predictive maintenance. These are massive operational improvements for businesses with thin margins. AI makes them dramatically more efficient without threatening their business model. That's a powerful combination. Okay, so here's where this becomes actionable. Because I don't just want you to know the framework, I want you to be able to apply it to your own holdings tonight. Step 1. Check for moats. For every software position you hold, ask 3 specific questions. Does this company have a physical component, data centers, hardware, infrastructure that AI cannot replace? Does it operate in a regulated industry where switching software requires regulatory approval or legal recertification? And is it so deeply integrated into its clients' operations that removing it would cause significant operational disruption beyond just inconvenience? If you can answer yes to at least one of these, you probably have some structural protection. If the answer to all 3 is no, you need to seriously evaluate that position. Step 2. Evaluate the business model. This is the seat compression check. Does this company charge per user, per seat, per license, meaning their revenue is directly tied to the number of humans using their product? Or do they charge based on outcomes, usage, or value delivered? Per-seat models are structurally exposed. Value-based models are structurally protected. It's not complicated, but you'd be surprised how many investors haven't thought about their holdings through this specific lens. Step 3. Ask the AI alignment question. Is more AI in the world good or bad for this specific business? For Microsoft, more AI means more Azure revenue. For CrowdStrike, more AI means more sophisticated threats and more demand for defense. For Snowflake, more AI means more data processing. For DocuSign, more AI means fewer people need DocuSign. This question cuts through a lot of noise. It's simple, but it's clarifying. Run every holding through these 3 steps. You'll quickly sort your portfolio into things you feel confident about and things that need a harder conversation. Before we wrap, I want to push back on something, because I think the full picture requires it. The market has moved fast and dramatically on this repricing. Software went from 51 times earnings to 27 times in a short period. That kind of velocity creates its own opportunities, but it also creates its own risks, specifically the risk that the market overcorrects. Not every company in the loser bucket is going bankrupt tomorrow. Some of them have transition paths. Some have enterprise relationships so entrenched that the actual revenue impact of AI disruption will take years to fully materialize. Workday has contracts with Fortune 500 companies. Those contracts don't evaporate overnight. The question isn't whether disruption is coming, it clearly is, but whether the current stock prices already more than reflect that disruption. At 27 times earnings, some of these names may already be pricing in outcomes worse than what actually happens. That's where selective opportunity might emerge, not in the obviously broken names, but in companies that have some structural protection that the market, in its panic, may be undervaluing. But that requires actual due diligence on individual names, not category-level thinking. The Goldman framework is a starting point, not a trading signal. Use it to identify what questions to ask, not to make buy or sell decisions in isolation. Here's the real takeaway. The AI disruption to software is not hype. The economics are real. $1 trillion of market value doesn't evaporate because of sentiment. It evaporates when institutional investors run the models and see the revenue at risk. But maximum fear in a sector often creates selective opportunities for investors who do the work to distinguish survivors from casualties. The companies with physical infrastructure, regulatory moats, deep integration, and value-based pricing models are not just surviving this wave. They're likely to be worth significantly more on the other side of it. The investors who do well in this environment will be the ones who stop asking, is AI overhyped, and start asking, for this specific business, is more AI in the world good or bad? That question changes everything. If you found this useful, hit subscribe. I'm going to keep going deeper on the specific names and sectors as this repricing continues to play out. Drop your portfolio questions in the comments. I read them, and the most interesting ones become future videos. See you in the next one.